What is going on, everyone? I'm Jimmy Don Kerr, and this is the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. My guest today is the proprietor of one of my favorite comic book unboxing YouTube channels. He has a very easy way about him that makes you like him instantly, and he has an insane amount of comic book knowledge. He is truly one of my favorite people I've met along this YouTube journey. So sit back, relax, as Brock Morgan answers 10 questions. Brock Morgan, welcome to 10 Questions, my man.
How's it going?
Good, man. Thank you so much for coming on. As I mentioned in the intro, Brock, if you saw that, um, you know, when did you start doing YouTube? Did you start doing YouTube in like 2020?
Yeah, I think it was early 2020, maybe something like that.
Yeah, DJ Links calls us the class of 2020, and Brock's one of those people that I found fairly early. Kind of when I got into it, I was watching a lot of unboxing videos, and Brock was doing a lot of that stuff, and so he's absolutely one of my favorites. So, man, it's long overdue to have you on 10 Questions, but I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate you having me. This is
No,
awesome.
absolutely. So, question one, Brock, is the same for everybody if you've watched 10 Questions, and that's what or who got you into collecting?
Um, it's funny because I know a lot of people have a pretty specific answer. I actually don't. There wasn't any particular person or thing that kind of started it. So my brother and I, he's a few years older, and we just kind of always were into it. You know what I mean? We had a local comic shop within walking distance. Um, he had a paper route, and I would just try to do as many chores around the house as I could to try to beg my mom for money and try to get a little bit extra cash to buy a couple comics. And yeah, so we were, I was a child of the '80s and late '80s, early '90s. So you're talking Jim Lee X-Men run, Todd McFarlane Spider-Man run. That was all right coming out right when we were in the middle of collecting, and then shortly after all the like animated shows were out. And yeah, so we were just always we were mainly collected X-Men when we were kids, but we had some other stuff here and there. But yeah, it was mostly X-Men titles. So
So was it just you started watching the shows, kind of like me? I say that a lot. When I was a kid, we had three channels, and you had Saturday morning cartoons, right? Like when I was growing
right.
up, and one of those was Super Friends, and that's what really kind of developed my love for DC and for Superman and those things because that's what I had to watch. So that was kind of the start. Did you just happen into a comic book store one day and you were like, "Oh, this is cool"?
So I think it was really the popularity of comics in the '90s, which, as we all know now, there was the big crash, and because of overproduction and all that. But yeah, I think that's what originally got us into it, and then the cartoons and everything came after. You know, um, like I said, we had a local comic shop, and it was within walking distance, and um, that was kind of like our hangout when we were kids. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I'm assuming probably kept us out of trouble when we were kids too, because we'd be there hanging out. You get to know the comic book shop owner, and they, just go in and talk to people about comics and stuff. And yeah, that was most of my childhood was comic books, and we collected all the like the Toy Biz toys and all that. So
That's cool. I mean, I never really had that. Like the closest thing to a comic book shop I had was the supermarket. You would go in there. There was a magazine rack, or it was actually a stand. It didn't have the spinner racks then, but it was a stand, and it would have Teen Beat and Rolling Stone. But then they would have a few comic books there as well. And that was so like the fact that you had a comic book store within walking distance that you could just go hang out. That is like super cool to me.
yeah, well, it was a bookstore as well. So I mean, it was like the front part of it was a bookstore, and then if you walk to the back of the store, it was where all the comics were. It's a lot like a LCS of today. They had all the back issue bins and new comic racks and everything. So yeah, really, really, really cool to have that as a kid, because I know, like you said, a lot of people didn't have that. Some people don't even have it now. So
Right. Well, I don't. I mean, I have, where I live, the closest shop's 45 minutes. the main office, the comic book store that I go to, my LCS is about 5 minutes away. I have to drive up there, but it's the closest thing I've got, and that's the one I frequent the most. So yeah, but no, just the idea that you would have that is like super cool, I think. So like, are you like the rest of us, and you collected as a kid, and then you had a hiatus, and then you got back into it?
Yeah, for sure. Like once I got into high school, like a lot of people, it kind of wasn't cool to be a comic collector, so you kind of stray away from it for a while, and then yeah, I got back into it probably like 15 years ago or so. Um, at that point, I was, it was just I was an adult and I was working and had expendable income and just on a whim one day started looking up comics and then that was it. Ever since then, I've been back into it. So
Yeah, it's funny how it happens, especially if you collect as when you're young, and you do stray away from it. Like I was always kind of around it, with my uncle, because even when I was an adult or in college, he still went to the flea markets and sold and different things. But he kind of transitioned out of ball cards, and he still had some ball cards and comic books, into other things like tools, basically whatever he could sell and make money. So I was always still kind of around it, but I wasn't, into it necessarily, like you said. And a lot of that had to do with money. I was just broke and, didn't have any money. I was a broke college student. And then, really for me, it didn't start till maybe 2016, when I kind of got back into it because my girls were getting older, and it was so immediate to me that I was like, I need something to do. What do I love? And it was like comic books. And so I walk into a comic book shop, and thousands of dollars later, here we are. So
yeah.
yeah, so I think everybody knows that feeling. All right, so let's jump into question 2. And like, what brought you to YouTube? Like, why did you just start making YouTube content?
So what's funny is along with getting back into the hobby when I did, I also came across mystery boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time there was no Spider-Man booth, there was no box here, there was no companies doing it. And there was no Instagram boxes. It was just you go on eBay, kind of search around. So I actually started buying these mystery boxes, and then I got curious and I'm like, does anybody do this on YouTube? And then one of the first channels I actually came across was sellmycomics.com. They're like a company, but they also had a YouTube channel where they would unbox like all these crazy, insane vintage comic collections. And then from there, of course, like the algorithm kicks in and it started kind of suggesting channels. And one of the first channels I came across was Comic Fu. And he did a lot of mystery boxes. And it was like, I noticed he was opening a lot of the ones I was too, but I didn't have a channel at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always talked about like doing one. And then I was kind of like, at first I was apprehensive because I was kind of like, oh man, I don't want to like, it was like, I didn't want to put myself out there. And then, like I'm sitting here thinking about like, oh, maybe, what if people are negative towards it? And like, you don't know what you're talking about, things like that. And then I started following more and more channels and started to see that there was this community and like, there was actually a lot of positivity. And so, and even at that point, I still hadn't like, okay, I'm going to start a channel. And I think what was it? Oh, I got a Boxed Heroes box, and that was the first one I'd gotten from them. And my wife says, "Are you going to you want to do a video? I'll film you." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't think so." And then, I don't know what it was. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do it. Why not? So and the whole point was like sort of, I wanted to sort of highlight like this is what you can get out of these mystery boxes. So I started with Boxed Heroes, and first video was terrible. I was like super nervous, and people even commented on that, like, "Bro, you're really nervous," and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, so that's just kind of where it started, and then after that, anytime I would get a mystery box, I would just pop a video on YouTube, and then as I was going, just meet more and more people throughout the community. Like I came across you and Gary and Slotted Up and DJ Links and like all these guys, and it's just like there's this huge community now. and it's like it's more positive than I ever thought it would be. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
I
no, for sure. No,
did
it's
not expect
amazing.
that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing the positivity. I've seen a little bit of negativity, um, almost like high school
Yeah,
BS. I've seen some of that, but for the most part, man, everybody's just cool. I mean, we're
right.
all midlife, I guess, sorta, or older, young adults, and um, well, I feel like I'm old now, but anyway, young adults, but we all have this passion for the same thing. It's just cool to be able to talk to somebody about it. I mean, like to be able
Right.
to just like do 10 questions and talk to somebody that's in a completely different part of the country about a hobby that we both love. So, I mean, I think it's absolutely cool, man. That it kind of came from that. So you said you started early 2020. A lot of, I guess for me and maybe a lot of people, it was boredom, like COVID, looking for something to do. And, I was watching a lot of videos, same thing. And, and just said, well, like I said, I was trying to prove something to my girls. We were having that conversation. And I was like, and then I ended up like loving it. Like I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. I mean, I'm having so much fun. So let's jump into a little bit of your collecting style. What's your question 3 is what's your favorite era like of comics to collect?
Definitely Silver and Bronze Age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hands down. Which is funny because Silver Age specifically, like a lot of the stories, they're kind of hard to read.
They
You know
are.
what I mean? But something that really has always drawn me to the Silver Age was, even though especially compared to now, the art is very simplistic. It's comic book art is the way I would like to describe it. So, like, I do love the art of current comics, but it's almost gotten to a point where it's so again, it's great art, but it's so hyper realistic. It's sort of like a whole different level now. So
Right.
like when I find, Silver Age or, early Bronze Age, that's what really uh stands out as a comic book to me. So that's kind of why I do collect some new and current titles, anything I'm really interested in reading. But like I said, I'll take a Silver Age issue almost any day over some of the newer stuff. So
Like what is it like what draws you to a modern book? Like if there's a modern book that you're going to buy, like something that comes out on new comic book day, like what type of title is it draws you in?
I do watch a lot of content about new comics so that I can kind of gauge, like a lot of people doing reviews, like your show for the
Mm-hmm.
new comic book day. Um, you know, and I kind of just base it off of that. I'll watch reviews. There's different people that do reviews that I could I kind of agree with, like what they go by. You know what I mean? So it's very for me with new comics. Like I don't have a pull list.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually never had a pull list. It's just I kind of pay attention to when stuff's coming out and hopefully get it. Depending on what the title is. So, but yeah, it's just yeah, it's kind of touch and go with new comics for me. So
So nothing in like is there a particular genre that draws you in or anything, or is it superhero? Is it horror? Like what kind of draws you in?
So for the new comics, I'm really liking the sort of indie titles and the horror titles that have been coming out, because I do love horror movies as well. So that kind of fits that mold, if you will. So
Yeah, that's
yeah, so
cool. All
like
right, so
sci-fi horror, kind of those along those lines.
that's cool. So I want to do this as question 4, and really to kind of just talk it out with somebody about how my collecting has changed and how, like for you, when you first got back into the hobby, has the way you collect changed, or has it been pretty consistently you buy silver and bronze age?
Um, I've noticed that. So when I first got back into it, I was sort of just hunting like early, like Silver Age X-Men, and trying to fill out the Volume 1 X-Men run. I am a run collector for sure. Like I'm always trying to complete full runs. Um, and when I first got back into it, I started with X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man, and I was really, like I said, I was really hunting down like Silver Age issues and stuff. And so here more recently, I've noticed that I've been picking up stuff kind of from the 90s that when I first got back into it, I didn't really pick up. And I'm kind of thinking like maybe it's like nostalgia. I'm not really sure why, but so I've been kind of picking up some of those 90s titles too.
So like for me, and this is the part I want to talk out, like as far as when I first got back into it, and I've said that on here many times, is, I walked into a comic book shop and I like to read. Even before then, I read books. Like I read a lot, and I just wasn't reading comic books. Now comic books are part of what I read. And so I was buying everything. Like, if they're like, I think Civil War II came out about that time. And I was buying that and every tie-in. And I mean, that ends up being like a ton of books. You don't realize, so that was lesson one, is you don't need all the tie-ins and all that stuff. But I've kind of seen as I've went on that I still enjoy reading the new stuff. Some of it or most of it. Like I said, I don't take it too serious, as far as that goes. It's just entertainment for me. I'm not a critic, is I guess what I'm trying to say. But I've kind of moved into this thing now to where I want to, like, as far as my collecting is concerned, I want to, because I have a bunch of modern books, a bunch of modern first appearances, things like that I don't necessarily care about anymore. And I'm doing this mystery box run right now, because I'm getting ready to go to C2E2. And so I'm trying to clear some of that stuff out so that maybe I can start working on some runs of, some older books. And then the other thing, like with the modern books that I found, is that I've started to be more attracted to the art. Like there's something about the art of late that's just really drawn me in on books. And I don't know if it's because it's that video I do, the first appearances and key issues, and I throw some covers in there. So I'm like really paying attention as I put together the content for that video. But I'm like drawn to the art. So I don't necessarily want to buy modern books now to keep in my collection. I want to go back and start with like runs of Silver Age books. Like I was looking up last night some Captain America Silver Age because I love Captain America.
Right.
Like, what would be your advice to someone like me who is kind of going back now and really wanting to start collecting like that Silver Age? Like I just bought some Golden Age stuff. First time I've ever bought a Golden Age book. Like I don't do like unboxing videos per se and show off what I've got. Like that's just not who I am. I don't like doing that. But I might actually do a video with these Golden Age books, just because it's the first ones I've ever bought. But like, what would be your advice to me or anybody like me out there that's kind of now in that era of their collecting where they want to put together Silver Age runs? Like, let's just say, for example, I want to do Captain America. Like, how should I approach that?
So, unless you have a time machine, it's kind of tough because the way that comics have recently just really blown up. I mean, it's tough to get those Silver Age, issues. A lot of the older stuff that I have, I was lucky enough to get it towards, when that first part of getting back into collecting. So the way the comic book market is now, especially with that older stuff, one thing you have to do is kind of decide, like, am I okay with having a little bit lower grade?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To get these older ones to complete the run. So the way I look at it with like a Silver Age book, I don't mind having like, a 4.0 or, 4.5 if it's going to go towards completing that run. Some people, they don't want that low of condition. You know what I mean? If they're like a hardcore collector, but I'm okay with it because, like I said, I'm a run collector, and the way I look at it is I can possibly upgrade if it's really low grade. I can possibly upgrade later. I would just say, kind of if you're like, for instance, you said Captain America. So if you're really wanting to get like a full run of Captain America, I would say you'd have to like focus your attention on that run, which can be kind of daunting because at the same time, you're like, I'm just picking up these Captain America comic books, but kind of just take it one issue at a time. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to go the eBay route, you might even be able to find like a lot of like, let's say 6 books or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you might be able to get a better deal overall that way. That's kind of what I did when I first got back into it. So I knew that I wanted to try to do runs of X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man. And at that time, I was lucky enough. I found a huge lot of Amazing Spider-Man. I'm talking, it was like 120 issues. And I think within that 120, I think it had the entire Todd McFarlane run. So that was, I ended up winning the lot. So that was like a huge chunk of that run that I got all at once. Now, again, this was back 15 years ago before stuff really blew up. But yeah, it's, if you find like big lots like that on eBay, that's one way about going about it. I do tons of hunting at various comic shops, so that's another way too.
Do you do a lot of Instagram? Like, there's a lot of Instagram sellers or virtual, comic book shops, things like that. Do you go to a lot of those resources as well to look for books, or are you primarily like an eBay, Macari comic book shop kind of guy?
I've done a few like claim sales through like Instagram and stuff like that, but for the most part, I just stick to eBay and LCS. I like to buy books off Instagram just because that money's going to like a fellow collector most of the time. I mean, there's actual stores through Instagram, but like I try to um, follow people that sell that I know are also collectors, because then I know that like I'm helping them get stuff that they want to get for their collection and things like that.
So yeah, that's what I was kind of sitting down last night, and I was trying to put together a plan, right? Because I'm a planner. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Am I going to go? And I thought, well, I'll just go one book at a time, right? Because I have a budget, right? I'm like everybody else. That's why I do the comics on a budget. I'm like everybody else. I got a budget that I allow and spend on comic books. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start. And I'm going to start with the Silver Age run because I'd really like to collect that Captain America run. And so 100, of course, is the first one of the series, his solo title. And, of course, that's going to be an expensive book, right out of the gate. And then I thought, well, I'll do that, and then I'll go to 101, and then 102, 103, and just go like that. And then I run across some lots and some things like that. So I think, and that's why I was wanting to ask you, because it seems like that's really about oh, look at you. Yeah, so that's an awesome book, man. I love that cover.
I've got, it just so happened I had that near me because I've got 10 books that I'm going to be sending into CGC. So I just happen to have that one right in front of me.
Well, I was starting to look at those last night, and it just depends on the grade. Like you said, it depends on the grade. Some of those books you're just not going to be able to buy, an 8.0 or a 9.0. You're going to have to go with a 4.0 or a 5 just to have it.
Right. Well, and then, this is not really something I do, but I know a lot of people will kind of work, if it's a key issue like that, they'll kind of work their way up to it. And then, you might start out with a lower grade to just kind of have it as a placeholder. And then, if you sell books, you can sell books to work your way up to a higher grade. I don't personally sell anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a personal choice for me right now. I tried to back in the day, and, just with eBay fees and everything, and you almost have to put more effort into it than I have time for. So I didn't do that for very long. So, but at some point, I do want to kind of I've thought about putting out my own mystery box, because I know that's the Instagram mystery boxes have gotten, pretty popular. So I've thought about doing my own kind of run of boxes, maybe just like a 10 box run or something. But yeah,
I'd buy a Brock Morgan box. I know I'd get some good stuff. So, I mean, it's no, and it is, and selling mystery boxes is weird because you put a lot of time and effort into it, and you try to do something good, but everybody's preferences are so different, and the prices moves up and down so quick that a book that might have been worth $10 when you put the box together is now worth $5, so your value's thrown off. So it's really weird. Let's jump into question 5. And, you're buying a lot of the older stuff. And as you mentioned earlier, they're kind of hard to read. So do you read all these books that you buy, or like you've got this collection, do you go back and read any of those books? Or are you primarily just a collector, like just a straight up run collector?
I would say it's probably like 60-40. 60 is collecting, 40 is reading. Like, I will read some stuff, but then there's other stuff that if I want to read the story, I'll either get a facsimile or a reprint or what have you. Like the Captain America 100, I have a what is it? The Marvel Super Action, I think, did a reprint of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the one that I would read for that issue. So,
Right.
but
No, that makes
especially
sense.
like the comics I was talking about earlier that I'm sending to CGC, like I've already sent those and had them cleaned and pressed. So definitely now I don't want to open it, get my fingerprints on it and all that. So,
Right.
but yeah.
No, that makes sense. Like, do you go back, like, do you ever go back, like, you started collecting the original X-Men run? Do you ever go back and pull those out and just sit down and read them?
Yes, like I said, some of them I will, and then like some of them I try to, depending on what it is. Um, well, for instance, like we can go back into the future CGC stack. Like we've got this one here.
Oh, yeah.
This is not one I would open up and read. I would try to find a reprint of sorts. But yeah, some of them I do. What was it? I went back through. I was organizing some comics, and I went back through and I had the oh Contest of Champions, the 3-issue miniseries, and I recently went through and read that because I've got like those three that I have. They're definitely lower grade copy, reader copies. So I went through and read it. It had been a long time since I read that story, and it was just kind of fun. I like going back and reading some of the older issues.
Yeah, no, that seems fun. Like I said, now they're really kind of hard to read. Like I'm a I like Star Wars, so I started going back and reading some of the the original '70s Star Wars run. They're harder to read because they're really wordy.
Oh yeah,
Like it's really wordy, and the art's still great and it's different, but it's great and it's but it is really wordy. Whereas today's and I guess that's based on our attention span, right? And how people read today is it's very art based with not a ton of word bubbles throughout. So it is different
right.
for sure. But one of my favorite things is the old art. So all right, now I want to jump into your YouTube channel just a little bit, and what you do on your YouTube channel. And so this will be question 6. Like, since getting into the community, like the YouTube community, comic book community, like, what's been your biggest surprise? Like, what's the biggest surprise since you personally jumped in?
Um, so like I said, when I started, I was kind of apprehensive to start because I didn't know, I didn't know if there was going to be like sort of hateful comments, things like that, because it's YouTube. You just never know. And so, one, I was really surprised to see how positive everyone was. Like, no, like I said, my first video, these people have never seen me before, never met me, and I've got multiple comments like, "Oh, awesome video," you know what I mean? Keep it up, blah blah blah. Stevie B gave me a shout out after one video. Like he's never met me, but he's like, "Yeah, go check this channel out."
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably the biggest surprise. Was I did not expect to actually I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't expect to make like friends and actually get to know people. You know what I mean? So that was the biggest surprise for me.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to mention is like, for me, I didn't realize that I was going to end up being friends with all these guys. Like, I'm friends with, these people. Like, we call ourselves the usual suspects, Gary B, Slot, and that list has kind of grown, of people within, kind of what we do. And I know you with Foo and Stevie B and Squatchy and those guys. Like, were you guys like fast friends? Like, did you become fast friends, or did it take a while and that just develop over time?
So like I said, with Comic Fu, he was one of the first channels like that was doing the mystery boxes that I kind of came across, and he and Squatchy started doing their Mystery Men show, and so I would be one of the people in the live chat, just ripping it up and whatever with everybody in the live chat, and then like a lot of people, he just eventually invited me to come on to the show as a guest, and I was like freaking out because I was like, oh man, okay. So I go on there, and it was just a really good time, and then they had me back on a couple other times, and then they ended up adding me into one of the Instagram chats or whatever, and it was just one of those sort of things that just sort of happened, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like Gary B and I became really quick friends. Like we just became friends because we were both kind of starting at the same time, and so we were watching each other's channels a lot. Like every time he would put one out, I'd watch his video, vice versa. And we just got to talking one day, on Instagram, and then realized we had some things in common. Same thing with Slot, DJ, Nick's Kicks and Comics, Chip. The list goes on and on of people that I've just kind of become friends with, and that's the biggest surprise for me. Like I did not think that would happen, because I'm an old guy, dude. I mean, I'm not really that old, but I'm, as far as I have one foot in the technology age and one foot in the old school way of doing things, right? That's in the way that I grew up. And so to fully embrace, this virtual friendship that I have with these people, we never actually met them in person, but yeah, it's cool. I mean, like it's fun. Like I would have never met Brock Morgan probably otherwise. And here we are, we're pals, right? Talking on 10 questions. So
Yeah.
it's definitely cool.
Yeah. It's crazy how many people you meet, talk to, and even the people that you just kind of like within the community that you kind of comment back and forth on each other's videos or whatnot, it that was definitely the biggest surprise for me. Like I did not expect that at all. I thought I was going to put these videos out, maybe get a couple comments, get like 10 subscribers, you know what I mean? Like I did not expect anything to come of it. So, and then here we are, a year and a half later.
So question 7, Brock, is, your channel is essentially based around, mystery boxes and opening mystery boxes. Like what makes a good mystery box to you?
Well, for me, okay, so for me personally, I prefer older stuff. So I try to go after mystery boxes that I know have a potential to have older stuff in it. Bronze Age, Silver Age, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me personally, like a Bronze Age filler issue to me is better than like a current variant.
Sure.
In my opinion, that might not be the case for everybody. Now I've kind of amassed a collection of a lot of variants, and most of it is out of doing mystery boxes. And I still have those, but yeah, for me, if I see again, like if it's like it could be like a 5.0 Silver Age issue, I prefer that over a newer issue. And then I know a lot of people talk about value in a mystery box. So let's say you spend $60 on a mystery box. There's some people out there that think, well, if I'm spending $60, I should get $120 in value. I don't feel that way. I feel like if I spend $60 and I get, say, 70 or $80 in value, that's a win. I mean, if you're over value, then it's a win for me. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it's worth $300 and I paid $60 for it. So
no, I agree. I feel the same way. Well, no, I feel the same way. I just want to get value. Like if I buy a $60 mystery box, I just want $60.
Right.
If I can get $60 and maybe get my money back out of it, if I want to move the books and maybe grab a couple for the PC and it provides content for the channel, then that's really all I'm looking for. And I got one a few weeks ago. I think you even commented on it that I bought off Facebook Marketplace. That was just trash, and
yeah,
I was
know. I know exactly what one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm not a negative guy by nature, right? Like and it meant value. There was one book in there that I actually kept. The rest I took to my LCS and they gave me $1 per. So I essentially lost,
right.
on that box. But it made for some interesting content. So you're kind of the same way. It's just your preferences for the older books. So do you like screen like the boxes that you buy? Do you buy ones that they put pictures out there and you can kind of pre-screen it unless you actually know what it is?
I try to go that route if I can, especially with like an eBay mystery box. I definitely go through the pictures. Now, the thing about the eBay boxes, I'm pretty skeptical sometimes because you'll see, they'll have some crazy pictures up and you're like, okay, I know I'm not getting that out of a $50 mystery box. But yeah, I try to kind of pay attention to like what's going to be in there, things like that. And then like with Instagram boxes, I've kind of gotten to where like I know which ones are definitely going to be ones that I'm going to like more. So like Retriever Comics, every time he puts a box out, I try to get one because I know those are going to be. He's going to have some of that older stuff in there that I'm looking for. Michael Ackery kind of does the same. You know what I mean? So um, I'll take a chance sometimes, though. Like I did box heroes for a while, and then it kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I want to do these anymore because it's just they were putting a lot of like the newer variants that most people could just go into an LCS and buy. So I
Right.
was like, this one may not be for me anymore. So that's kind of how I kind of gauge it by that.
And that brings me to question 8 is, and this is, as someone who does, I have various content on my channel, but I have Mystery Box Monday because, I like to spotlight different mystery boxes and different things. The one this week was actually an AOK from you. And, it was a video of yours I watched. There was a Superman Son of Kal-El book that I was like, Brock don't want that. I know he doesn't. I'll buy that off of him. And, and so I sent him a message, and next thing you know, I've got this fantastic AOK. I mean, like fantastic AOK. It's insane. So, and go back Monday and watch the Mystery Box Monday because it just blew my mind what he sent me. There's a freaking Firestorm cover that I like. Nobody else would like it but me, right? But Brock knew that I would like it, so it blew me away. It's just such a dope cover. So this is the thing. Like as you started opening mystery boxes on your channel, so yeah, you were doing some boxed heroes, you were doing some things like that, and then it kind of transitioned. So here's the thing that I'm going through right now, and I know I'm talking a lot in this, guys, but I'm having this conversation with Brock because I specifically asked Brock on here because I love him, number one, but two, like I'm going through some stuff right now, and I want to talk it out with Brock. So I am my YouTube channel, and it's just my nature. I'm business oriented. I want it to succeed. I want to, I wanted to get 1,000 subs. I wanted to get monetized, and now I'm very analytical. So I look at the analytics. So one of the things that I've, really been looking at lately, I was doing a lot of that Spider-Man booth, boxed heroes, the bigger companies, right? And then I kind of transitioned into Instagram boxes because I want to support the community. I mean, there's just such a good group of people, as we've said 1,000 times over in this interview, such a good community of people that I want to support them. And I know if I'm giving them my money that they're able to buy stuff they want. And that's why they're doing it. So, I try to do that. But you don't get the same amount of views with those boxes. I do a boxed heroes box or that Spider-Man booth box, I will get mega views every time. Whereas if I do a retriever box, I'm going to get some good views, but not as many as I would if I did a boxed heroes or that Spider-Man booth. And I'm like you, I love retriever boxes. Like his boxes are dope. Like they're good. Does any of that come into play for you? I guess that's a long way of asking the short question. Does any of that stuff come into play for you? Or is it more about supporting the community for you and getting books that hopefully you'll like?
So it was kind of funny because, like, I guess, so I'm appreciative of anybody that obviously that's subscribed to my channel, but I've never had like a real goal, I guess, with the YouTube thing. Like, I'm just honestly just doing it for fun, just as an added aspect of the hobby. And I buy all these mystery boxes. Why not make a video? And so there's a lot of kind of randomness to it, I guess. Like, if I come across a box on Instagram, that I think I'm gonna like, I'll buy it. To me, it doesn't matter if I get 30 views or 400 views. It really doesn't matter. I prefer to support the community. Actually, I just bought one of the what was it? Oh, Jack B charity mystery boxes. So I'll be having that on my channel, and that one's cool because he donates 10% to was it Feed the Children, I think. And on top of that, it's got that older stuff that I'm looking for, or at least it would appear so. I think that's the kind of the appeal of that one to me. So it's kind of a mixture. I'm definitely starting to stray away from the company boxes for sure. Just not because I have anything against them. It's just there's not a lot in there for my personal collection. You know what I mean? Like I was saying with
Sure.
Bronze Heroes and well, Torpedo, that's a whole different ball of wax, you know. I tried those out and yeah, it went about as expected. So I kind of gonna stay away from Torpedo from now on too. Um, one that I really like is Comic Vantage
Yeah, those
because
boxes are cool.
so the thing about Comic Vantage, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, it's just one guy doing it. It's
Really?
it's a company, but it's basically one guy doing everything. And so, um, in a way, it's almost like supporting a small business too, um, which is cool. And I like the Vantage boxes are a little bit different. You're going to get a lot of indie stuff, but I do like them. So, and obviously, I got turned on to those by going on to the Mystery Men show because that's the box they open on there. But yeah, so Comic Vantage is always a good one, and that one's like I said, that one's kind of like supporting a small business, if you will.
Sure. I
Know,
didn't know that about that. But I love those
yeah,
boxes though. I opened my first one, I think, last month.
yeah,
And but I watch a lot of them because you open them and, Foo opens them. And so I watch a lot of them. And those boxes are so random. Like there will be five
yeah,
books and there will be like four, maybe three of the most random titles you've ever seen.
right,
And then either one or two really good books.
yeah.
But
It,
but it's great value. I mean, for the money, it's really good value.
Yeah. So and he originally started as just selling them on eBay. That's where he first started. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to see he's got his own, he's got his own website now. He's actually selling he had his own exclusive cover come out for a comic book. So he's kind of working on building his own sort of thing there. But yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, no, they are. They're random. But no, I've been having this mental tug of war with myself because I'm so analytical by nature. And what I do that I look at the analytics constantly on YouTube. Constantly. Like that's the thing I look at. I don't look at subscriber count. I did because I was trying to get to 1,000 subs. Like that was my goal. So I had to get there. So I was looking. But for my mental health, I stopped. But I still look at the analytics part, like what works, what doesn't, because I like it. I know that sounds crazy, but I like looking at it.
right.
And I've noticed that if I open a corporate box, I get views. If I open a box from a member of the community, I'll get views from my core audience, but I don't get as many random views that are out there. And I just, because I'm like you, and as my taste has changed, in the way that I collect, like I want to support the community because I love it and I love all the people in it. But at the same time, my analytic brain makes me think, well, you need to go this direction.
Right. And so I kind of mixed it up too. Like I would buy a Torpedo box and then like maybe 2 videos later, I would have a box from somebody from Instagram. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. If you want the YouTube views, if you go with a Torpedo box, I almost guarantee you're going to get views, because so your average random person has probably heard of Torpedo Comics.
Right. They want to see how bad it sucks. It's like watching a train wreck.
Yeah, I think that's more what it is. They want to see like how bad you got. But yeah, like, your average random person maybe has not heard of, this guy over here doing boxes from Instagram. So yeah, it's kind of one of the things. Like I said, for me, YouTube, I never had like a specific YouTube goal. Like, oh, you wanted to hit 1,000 subs, and that's what a lot of people shoot for. I was just like, I'm gonna put these videos on here. If people like them, great. You know what I mean? Just kind of just throw them up there, and people can see what you can get out of these mystery boxes. And then as I went along, and I'm watching more, YouTube content, I'm seeing people show comic book hauls. So then I kind of started like kind of incorporating those into my channel too. Like, oh, well, this is what I picked up from this trip to the LCS. And actually, I've noticed that I probably get more views on my comic haul videos than I do mystery boxes, which is kind of interesting to me.
Well, no, I think that makes sense to me though, because your comic haul views are really your comic haul videos are interesting, right? Because you get to see inside the mind of Brock. Like, here's what Brock's
Right.
getting, and you buy cool stuff. Like it's older stuff and it's cool stuff. So it's interesting. What like I enjoy your comic haul videos. I enjoy all your videos, but I really enjoy those because it's kind of random what you're going to pick up. Or I know generally the era that you're going to be in, but it's interesting to see what you find as you kind of put runs together and things. So I think it's cool.
But yeah, so one thing I do kind of want to get into with my channel is I do kind of want to show off more of what I already have.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, like I might highlight these. This is my Silver Age X-Men collection type of video, or like stuff like that. I kind of always intended to do that, and then it's just like I end up buying another mystery box. And
right. Well, I know early on your channel, I remember commenting. You actually got on there, and I think you maybe did like top 10 Silver Age books in my collection, and I freaking loved that video because it was very educational to me. Because I was kind of I was learning. It's from somebody that you brought it to me in a way that I really enjoyed, and I think I even commented on that one. Is like, hey, dude, this was cool. Like I enjoyed this and I enjoyed your perspective on these books. So yeah, I think that makes total sense for you. I think it's something you'd be good at.
Yeah. So yeah, like I always intended to kind of do those types of videos. And then, like I said, I would just buy another mystery box. And it was like, okay, well, we're doing another mystery box today. So
well, too, and the truth is, opening a mystery box, you can do that fairly quickly.
Right.
Throw it up, you're good to go. To do a video like that, if you're actually planning it, it takes some, planning. And when you work, it's hard. I know I run into that a lot, like where since COVID is things are kind of back to normal for the most part. Like I'm really struggling, like trying to find time. Is done week to week. Like I do it a little bit of it every night. As I'm researching the first appearances and what books are coming out that week. So yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So we're getting close on our time, Brock. So I got two more questions here and number 9, I really want to get into with you. And that's just as being your kind of everyday collector. Like what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge going forward? For new people getting into the hobby, as well as people like us and, who've been in it for a while now. Like, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge going forward?
So, for me as a collector, one of the biggest challenges I kind of am coming across is one, I need to focus my collection more. I think like I said, when I first started back into collecting, I mostly was sticking to the X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man runs. Well, then as I got going, I kind of started picking up different stuff, part of Captain America or Incredible Hulk, you know what I mean? And I think I've lost some of the focus of collecting specific stuff. So it's gotten hard to complete those runs because I'm just picking up everything. And the thing is, I mean, you really can't collect everything as much as you want to.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You really
it's
can't.
Impossible.
I want to. Well, and that's a big problem I have is like I'll have 10 different things I want to collect all at one time. And hell, I ain't got enough money or time to even find those books. So,
But the other thing I'm kind of noticing is it's getting tougher and tougher. The way that comics have just kind of exploded, in popularity here with, I think, the pandemic was part of it, but I think then as people, there was a big nostalgia factor, I think.
Absolutely.
I'm seeing books that when I first got back into it 15 or so years ago that have, quadrupled, in value, 400% in value. When I first got back into it 15 years ago, I was able to pick up a lot of these sort of key issues that I needed for the runs. And now I'm looking them up and I'm like, wow, that's like, so basically what I'm getting at is I feel like I'm getting priced out of a lot of stuff that I need. And so that's where me kind of looking at possibly selling some stuff or doing mystery boxes is going to help me out so I can be able to afford those, make the hobby pay for itself, as they say.
Right.
So that's kind of the biggest challenge I face. With a new collector, honestly, I think just not getting overwhelmed, I think, is the biggest thing. And really, if you're a new collector, kind of deciding like, are you going to start from current stuff and go out, or are you going to be like, being go back to the Silver Age and Bronze Age and go back to different eras or the Golden Age? You know what I mean? Really, I think just focusing your collection is a big key. And I think I've lost some of that, like as I've gone along. And I think I've tried to collect too much, is what I'm getting at.
No, it makes total sense because I do the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
like I got all these random things. And when I was sitting down, I was starting to think, I was like, okay, I think I really do, like, as far as like, what do I want my collection to be? And I was like, okay, I think I want to get in these Silver Age runs, like go from, just do the Silver Age. And do that, and let's do Captain America, and let's see how that goes. And I'm just gonna have to start with book one and go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and just do it like
Right.
that and focus specifically on that. But then I know that won't work for me, Brock. Like I'm gonna have to add at least something else. Like I'll say, okay, I'm gonna do that and Incredible Hulk. Like as these characters that I like. Superman's my favorite, obviously, and I have a lot of those books. And so, but I want to get into maybe Cap, Daredevil. I love that Daredevil run. And then I want to get into maybe Hulk and Spidey. And so, but hear me. What I'm saying is, I've already got 4. I went from Cap to 3 others.
Right.
So, and I think what you're saying is right because it is incredibly difficult to focus in on that one thing. And I think to be successful, that's probably what you're going to have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been kind of thinking about narrowing down some of the collection here recently because it's gotten to the point where, like I said, I've lost that focus. I also have limited amount of space for storage. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, it's one of those things. I like to say that I have comic book ADHD because I'm like
Right.
I'm collecting. I'll get my focus going. You know what I mean? And I'll pick up 10, 12, 15 books for a run, and then next thing you know, I'm at the LCS and I'm like, ooh, this one. Ooh, this
Yeah.
one. Digging through back issues, and just next thing I know, I've got a stack of books this big, and I'm like, what did I even do here?
No, I feel the same way. Like, I mean, I really do. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, a comic book ADHD is the best I've heard it called. Like, because I feel that way.
Right.
Like, I want to. Like, I'm very nostalgic, right? So I was trying to think. Like, okay, I'm going to get really serious about this and really. Because I have a collection of slabs, a lot of which that were given to me by my uncle, okay, through the years of out picking that I don't even have here. That they're at in different banks and safety deposit boxes because they're like real books, and they're for long term, and I don't know that I would ever sell any of them, just because my uncle gave them to me before he passed. So, um, but like really focusing in because I think I could continue to do the reading part of it with the modern books online. Like there's a lot of good online resources and there's a good way. I mean, really some of the art today, because it's digital, really pops when you read it digitally. So I think I could do that. And then for the new stuff and try to find this happy medium, I guess is what I'm going for.
Right.
And but then I want to buy toys and then I want to buy Funko Pops
Yeah.
because there's so much cool stuff out there, right?
Yeah, it never ends. Going to the comic book shop's actually probably the worst thing for me because then I get in the back issue bins, and next thing you know, I'm just pulling stuff out. And like I said, I'm leaving with a stack of books, and it even happened. I just went to the comic book shop yesterday, and I had made a list of titles and books that I kind of wanted to stick to. I ended up leaving with literally none of anything on my list, but I still had a stack of books this big.
Right.
So I was like, well, it is.
Yeah, and so it goes. It's the life of a collector, man. I said it's just part of it. I said, like, you'll open I watched Brock's mystery box opening, and he got this Superman Son of Kal-El, and I was like, I have to have that. So I want to buy it, and that's what happens to me. DJ will open something, I'm like, dude, I want that. Sell that to me. And then I can't buy the other thing I want. So like I said, yeah, comic book ADHD. We've coined it here on 10 Questions. Brock Morgan said it. I think that's where it's at. So, Brock, last question, question 10. Like, is there, and I'm not something that you already have, but is there a holy grail like for Brock Morgan, like that if the one book, money wasn't an option that you could get, what would it be?
So I know. So I'm obviously more of a Marvel collector. I do collect a little bit of everything, DC, indie, but mostly Marvel. So I know a lot of people's answer for that would be Amazing Fantasy 15, which don't get me wrong, I would love to have. My personal grail is an X-Men #1, hands down. Like I said, I started as a kid as an X-Men collector. You know, my brother and I always that was like our dream. You know what I mean? To have an X-Men #1, like that was it. So yeah, that's the holy grail for me.
That's awesome. I think it's a great. That's a hell of a book too. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a big book. Yeah.
Eventually, I'm gonna stick with the positivity, and I'm gonna say eventually it will happen.
Of course it will.
But for now, probably not.
Well, that's what I tell everybody. Like, I want that Action Comics, the Superman, the book, right? Like the book for Superman. And I will own it one day. And I've said it many times. I will own it. I'll probably have to sell my company to do it. And I'll probably only get to keep it for a week and have to resell it.
Right.
But I will own it one day. And, so no, man. Brock, dude, that was so much fun. And I'm sorry for those of you watching. Like, this was really like a therapy session for me. I need to talk some stuff out with Brock. And Brock's my boy. And this is the first time I've ever, outside of being on Gary B's channel, really the first time I've sat down and talked to Brock one-on-one. But I feel like I know Brock because I watch all his videos, and so I feel like I know him. And really, like, the things that I've been kind of going through, Brock, as far as like really how the direction of my channel, how I want it to go, like how I want to be supportive of the community, but I want my channel to, like all those things. And two, getting into this run collecting, for the Silver Age books and even picking up some Golden Age stuff. Like, I just had some stuff to say today. I had to get it off my chest and talk to Brock. So this was like a therapy session for me.
Yeah. Next thing you know, we're going to be coming up with a 12-step program for comic book ADHD. So
look, I'm telling you, we've coined it, Brock. I'm going to trademark it as soon as we get off here. I'll send you the paperwork, and we'll comic book ADHD. So, guys, if you're not familiar with Brock's channel, like legit, go over. I'll put a link down in the description to his channel and his IG, all that stuff. Go follow my man. Go sub him up. He is criminally undersubbed, in my opinion. He is one of the channels, like there's several videos I watch and several channels I watch each week, but Brock's is must watch for me every week. I watch every video he puts out. I love it. And go check him out. My dude's got a lot of knowledge about the books, and and as I said in the intro, he's got a really easy way about him when he's talking about the books that's very easy to watch. So go check my dude out. Go follow him. You won't be sorry. Absolutely phenomenal channel. So, guys, Brock, thank you so much, man, for coming on 10 Questions. I sure appreciate it, brother. I've had a blast. Guys,
thank you.
Brock Morgan, I still can't point, Brock. I still can't do it. Brock Morgan, 10 Questions.